Did you know that 1 in 20 home sales end up in court due to disclosure issues? That's right, and it could happen to you if you're not careful. In this video, I'll show you the 5 things you absolutely must disclose when selling your home. Trust me, number 3 is not what you'd expect. Now let's talk about something that might keep you up at night. The structural secrets of your home. You know, those creaks and groans your house makes. Well, some of them might be trying to tell you something important. Let's talk about a couple named John and Jane. They thought their home was in pretty good condition. But one rainy day, they noticed a small wet spot on their living room ceiling. No big deal, right? Wrong. That little spot was hiding a much bigger problem, a leaky roof that had been quietly causing damage for months and months. Remember that when you're selling your home, you can't just cross your fingers and hope the buyer won't notice these issues. You've got to speak up about major structural problems. I'm talking about things like leaky roofs, flooding basements, and cracks in the foundation. These aren't just minor inconveniences. They're big deals that can seriously affect a home's value and safety. Now, you might be thinking, if I tell the buyer about these problems, won't they run for the hills? Well, not necessarily. Rick Davis, a real estate attorney, says that the most of the time, being upfront about these issues won't make a buyer back out or even ask for a lower price. But you know what will? Keeping quiet about it and letting them find out on their own after they bought the place. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you sell your home and don't mention that the basement floods every spring. The new owners move in excited about their new home. Then the first big rainstorm hits and suddenly they're wading through ankle deep water in their own basement. How do you think they're gonna feel or react? They're gonna be pretty angry, right? And guess what? They might just decide to take you to court over it. That's right, hiding these kind of defects can land you in some serious legal hot water. We're talking lawsuits, damages, the whole 9 yards. It is not worth the risk, trust me. So what should you do? Be honest. If your roof leaks, say so. If your basement floods, speak up. If your foundation has cracks, let the buyer know. It might feel scary to admit these things, but it's always better than the alternative. Here's a pro tip. Get a thorough inspection done before you even list your house. This way you know exactly what issues you need to disclose and what you don't. And don't just tell the buyer about problems. Give them copies of any inspection reports you have. This shows you're being completely open, forthright, and upfront about your home. Remember, selling a house isn't about pulling a fast one over the buyer. Rather, it's about making a fair deal where everyone knows what they're getting into. It has to be a win-win. By disclosing structural issues, you're protecting yourself and giving the buyer a clear picture of what they're buying. It's a win-win situation. So next time you're getting ready to sell your home, take a good, hard look at its bones. Are there any secrets your house is hiding? If so, it's time to bring them into the light. Your wallet and your conscience will thank you later. All right, let's talk about something that might make your skin crawl literally. You know those little critters that sometimes find their way into your home? Well, they're not just annoying. They could be a big problem when you're trying to sell your house. Remember John and Jane? Well, they thought they had it all figured out. But then one day, Jane noticed some weird noises coming from the attic. She brushed it off thinking, it was just the wind or a tree scraping against the house. But oh boy, was she wrong. When they finally checked it out, they found a whole family of raccoons upstairs that had made themselves at home in their attic. And that's not all. There were signs of termites in the basement too. Talk about uninvited guests. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a few bugs and some furry friends. No big deal, right? Wrong. Here's the thing. Pest problems are a huge deal when you're selling your home. And I'm not just talking about a few ants in the kitchen. When we say pests, we're talking about termites, bed bugs, bats, mice, snakes, and even those pesky raccoons. These little troublemakers can cause some serious damage to your home. Take termites, for example. These tiny terrors can eat away at the very foundation of your house, causing thousands of dollars of damage. And the worst part, you might even know they're there until it's way too late. Now, here's where it gets tricky. As a seller, you've got to spill the beans about any pest problems you know about, past or present. I know, it might seem like you're shooting yourself in the foot, but trust me, it's better to be upfront than to face a lawsuit down the road. You see, in most states, it's not just a nice thing to do, it's the law. You've got to tell potential buyers about any of these pest issues. It's all about protecting them from surprises or expenses and health problems after they move in that they were not expecting. But don't panic. Disclosing pest problems doesn't mean that you can't sell your house. In fact, being honest can actually work in your favor. Remember, selling a house is all about trust. By being honest about pest issues, you're not just following the law, you're also building rapport or a relationship with your buyers. And that, my friends, is key to a smooth, stress-free sell. Now, let's talk about something that might not seem like a big deal, but trust me, it can come back to bite you. I'm talking about the paper trail. All those repairs and renovations that you've done to your house over the years. You might think, who cares about the little bathroom remodel? Well, let me tell you, the law cares, and so should you. Remember, John and Jane, they thought they were in the clear after dealing with their pest problems and their roof problem, but then they remembered they had a kitchen renovation they did a few years ago. It looks great, they thought. Why would we need to mention it? Oh boy, were they in it for a surprise. Here's the thing. When you're selling your house, you've got to spill the beans about any major work you've done. I'm talking about new roofs, updated electrical systems, and even the fancy new deck you built. Why? Because the buyers have a right to know what they're getting into. It's not just about telling them what you've done. You've also got to show them the paperwork. Yep, those permits and inspections that you probably stuffed in a drawer somewhere. Well, time to dig them out. Now that you might be thinking, come on, do I really need to show them all that? The answer is a big, fat yes. Here's why. If you did the work without the right permits, you could be in hot water. We're talking about fines, having to redo the work, or even get into legal trouble. Not fun, right? But don't panic. If you can't find every single piece of paper, the important thing is to be honest about what you've done. If you're not sure if something needed a permit, say so. It's better to admit that you don't know than to keep quiet and risk problems later on. Here's a pro tip. If you're not sure what needs to be disclosed, just check with your local building department. They can tell you what work typically needs a permit in your area. Now, you might be worried that talking about all this work will scare buyers away. But get this, being open about repairs and renovations can actually be a really, really good thing. It shows buyers that you've taken care of the problems in the house, plus it builds trust. And trust, my friends, is gold when you're trying to sell a house. Adam Buck, a real estate expert, says that the more you disclose, the less important those disclosures might become to the buyer. In other words, being upfront can actually make potential issues seem less scary to potential buyers. So what's the bottom line here? Don't try to hide your home's history. Be proud of the work you've done that makes it better. Show off those permits and inspections like it's a badge of honor. And if something wasn't done quite by the book, own up to it. Remember, selling a house is not just about getting the best price. It's about making a fair transaction where everyone knows what they're getting into. By being open about your home's paper trail, you're not just following the law, you're setting yourself up for a smoother, less stressful sell. All right, you've heard about all the things you need to tell your buyers, but how do you make sure you're not saying too much? Let's wrap up John and Jane's wild ride through the world of home selling. They learned a ton about what to share, from leaky roofs to unwanted critters. But here's the big question. How do you balance being honest while still protecting yourself? Here's the deal. You definitely want to be open, but you don't want to scare buyers away. It's like walking a tightrope. You've got to be smart about it. That's where a good real estate expert comes in handy. They can help you figure out what you need to say and even how to say it without going overboard. Remember, too much info can just be as bad as not enough. You don't want to end up in court because you said something you didn't have to. So be careful, be honest, and get some expert help. Your wallet and your stress levels will thank you later on. We talked about a leaky roof, but that's not the only thing you need to be concerned about when you sell your home. Here are 7 major pitfalls to avoid when selling your next home.